All right, folks, we are live. I'm Jake Ellenbogen, your Rams expert, I guess, on this live stream. And I got my 49ers expert, my friend Grant Cohn. How we doing?
Expert, insider. Let's go expert.
I like you.
Insider.
So whatever you want to be today, that's what you're going to be.
Expert / insider / provocateur.
I like it. Hey, well, you know, it's content. It's things people need. So you are content. You are a provider of sorts.
It's true. Hey. I'm a distributor, a dealer.
Oh, man. Well, welcome in, everybody. We appreciate you being here. I know it's spur of the moment, but, well, if you're new to this channel, then that might shock you. But if you've been following me for a while, I'll go live 2 minutes after I decide I want to go live. So that doesn't shock people. Just want to let you guys know that today's episode, live stream, whatever you want to call it, is brought to you by BetUS. And if you want to bet on this game, you got to go over to BetUS. Of course, bet responsibly. You got BetUS. YouTube 150 is the code. You're going to get 150% bonus match on your first deposit and 125% on your next two deposits after that. So definitely go and check that out. Props, whatever you want to bet on. I mean, you could bet on the freaking coin toss. So, you know, if you want to get some skin in the game for Thursday night, you can go and do that. But again, be sure to bet responsibly. All right, guys, now we got that out of the way. Rams, 49ers, and I feel like it wasn't that long ago, even though it definitely was. Week 3 feels like forever, but for whatever reason, us live streaming doesn't feel like it was that long ago. Grant, welcome in, and I'm excited to talk about this game. 49ers are giving us a little bit of something to talk about because they just walloped the Chicago Bears. So I want to get your thoughts on where are the 49ers at right now? Is this a team that can ruin the Rams' hopes and dreams after coming off what is one of the best regular season wins of Sean McVay's career, maybe the biggest win of Sean McVay's regular season career? Can they do that this Thursday night?
It's funny. I mean, McVay did win a Super Bowl, but you're talking regular season. Like, absolutely, This was one of their biggest wins. And when Kyle on the other side is like coaching for his job over here because he hasn't won a Super Bowl and he's in year 8 and it's getting looked like it was getting a little stale considering he got freaking blown off the map by the Bills last week. So it was like it was a must-win game. They controlled the game from the opening snap. It was impressive, but it also was the Bears. And it's hard to say that what the Niners did is going to carry over. Like, yeah, they got the ball to Kittle a lot. That's good. They got the ball to Jennings a lot. That's good. Like, is their defense really as good as it showed, or are the Bears god awful? Hard to say. So what the Rams just did against the Bills is legit. I mean, that counts. What the Niners did against the Bears is a little questionable. I guess we'll have to see if they can actually win a second game in a row. And what's funny is they have all these positive vibes. The season's been defined by negative vibes, like drama and bad luck and anything that could go wrong going wrong. They win this game, everything's going good, and then Debo the next day on Twitter complains about his usage after a win where they win by 25 and score 38 points, and he's talking about he's frustrated. So then everyone yesterday is like, yeah, man, Debo's right, man. We got to get him the ball. Like, not really. No, you don't. So there's always something with this team, and from afar, it seems like the Rams, say what you want about them. I mean, they haven't been super dominant the last few years, but they never seem to have like these kinds of drama and distractions.
No, you're absolutely right. They're not allowed. I think I said it the last time we linked up because when the Rams have any sort of distraction on that level, they're removed.
Yeah,
it's that simple. You know, Trey White was a pros pro after he got benched, and before it ever became a distraction, like, hey, that's like 4 weeks in a row I've been sitting on the bench here, was starting. What's up? Am I still a part of this team? They didn't even waste time. They're like, all right, we're going to trade you at the deadline. They got nothing for him because they wanted him to go to the right fit. They're not trying to screw these guys, but like Cam Akers, you can't have a guy who you drafted in the second round to be your franchise running back just hold out because he doesn't like that Kyren Williams is better than he is and he's getting more playing time because of it. So Sean McVay said, all right, let's move on. You know, Deshaun Jackson, right? They're 7-0, and this guy's like, I need more targets. He's like, well, do you want to be a part of a Super Bowl team or not? He said no. He actually, to this day, he actually regrets that. He said it on his podcast as such. But they removed him, right? I think they just straight up released him. So
was Jared Goff an example of that too?
I think it was. And I'll say this. I don't know if you knew about the whole Mike Silver puff piece. I know he just dropped another one of his, puff piece specials about his fellow alumni. Because Jared Goff, it was like 2022. He went to Dan Campbell, thought he was going to get benched, and then he came out rejuvenated. Yeah, he had another one of those. I haven't seen Mike Silver around the Rams since. And,
is that right?
Yeah, I think I
He's
remember
no
it being, I don't know. I can't really say. I'm not in LA, right? But wow. I just know that I've seen something shift, right? We don't hear about Mike Silver. He's never reporting on the Rams anymore. And it was after that piece when Jared Goff was talking to him on the team plane, the back of the team plane, and I guess kind of complaining about his situation, which was bizarre. So yeah, to answer your question,
we'll get to Goff a little later when I interrogate you in this cross.
Hey, I'm here for it. So I asked you about the 49ers. Mm-hmm. They got Kittle back, and Kittle looks as good as any tight end in the league. Maybe Brock Bowers is a little bit ahead of him right now. He's a freak, but George Kittle had 150 plus yards, 6 catches. The last time the Rams linked up against the 49ers, Juwan Jennings had a legacy game. I know you and I are probably one of the only, 2 people out there that have actually been as high on Juwan Jennings. I actually wanted the Rams to go out and get him this offseason, was hoping, he wouldn't get the second round tender, and he did, which was smart. Jennings had 90 yards, and he caught 2 touchdowns in this past game. Looking at Brock Purdy, which I feel like you keep it real with him, and Jesse keeps it real with him, and I've seen Rob keep it real with him. I feel like now, since Brock Purdy had that game against the Bears, the narrative now is 20 for 25, 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions against the Bears' dominant defense. But here's the thing. Here's the tidbit, okay? And I want to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Do you think Brock Purdy is quote-unquote back, or do you think he played against a defense that I think people are essentially forgetting that while Eberflus wasn't the greatest head coach, having him just gone like that and firing him overnight hurt the defense? So what do you think?
It certainly hurt the defense. It torpedoed the defense. And I'll explain exactly how. So Brock Purdy had about 40 starts, almost 50 starts in the NFL. We know his strengths and weaknesses. And against zone coverage, he's elite because he processes quickly. He throws the anticipation. He throws the spots. He's very, very good at it, especially when the Niners have a bunch of weapons and Kyle Shanahan's scheming things open. So against zone, he carves you up. You don't want to play zone against the 49ers. That's why so many teams play much more man-to-man coverage against the Niners than they do against anyone else. His passer rating against man-to-man coverage this year is 50-something. Against zone, it's 120-something. That's Brock Purdy because he just doesn't have the arm to fit the ball in the tight windows down field against man-to-man coverage. So the Bears, dum-dums that they are, came out and played almost exclusively zone against the 49ers. That's the mark of a team that's just mailing it in and doesn't have a head coach anymore. I think if Eberflus were there, they might. But he's a zone guy anyway. The Rams know what to do. I mean, if you play man, Brock's in trouble. If you do the simulated pressures, the Niners are in trouble. They haven't picked up one of those in 2024. I just felt like the Bears were really unprepared and didn't know who they were facing.
Yeah, and it's disappointing because Thomas Brown took over as the interim head coach, and I think you've seen good things in the offensive side, but the 49ers essentially early on take away the run game, and it's like they didn't really take it away. You could keep doing it, and they just stopped. And when you start, if you do it with Brock Purdy, if you force him to have to be the offense, just like you're forcing Caleb Williams, good things are not going to come out of that. But looking back, Brock Purdy had what I would say is his best game of the year against the Rams back in week 3. The Rams at that point, that defense is young. They're still young, but they've grown up quite a bit since then. In addition to that, the offensive line was just absolutely bashed and bruised and bloodied going into that game. Tutu Atwell was the number one receiver for the team, and Demarcus Robinson. They used Jordan Whittington in that game. So I don't know exactly, how things went down or whatever. I don't necessarily want to discredit what Brock Purdy did, but I do think not having Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and a bunch of guys definitely led to what we saw. However, they lost that game. Despite Brock Purdy throwing 3 touchdowns in that game, Jordan Mason had no issue running the football. Brock Purdy moved the chains, and Juwan Jennings had almost 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. They lost that game. So how does Brock Purdy turn that into a win this time at Santa Clara?
Well, keep in mind, in that game, Jordan Mason played. He won't be playing. Brandon Ayuk played. He won't be playing. Deebo Samuel was out. He'll be there. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. And then George Kittle didn't play either. And to me, what's interesting about this season is the Niners had this whole identity crisis for 3 months. And I think it was tied into Christian McCaffrey. They thought they were going to have him week 1. And then all of a sudden, 90 minutes before that weekend, they realized, actually, we're not going to have him for half a season. I think they kept waiting for him to come back and thinking, let's not overreact. He'll carry us the way he used to, and he didn't. And so now when he finally went down again with the knee injury, the Niners were like, we got to figure out who this team is without him. And so it's so clear it's George Kittle. He's a Hall of Fame player, probably having one of his best seasons. I mean, he's just, you could argue he should have way more targets than he has. And it was just a couple of weeks ago in Buffalo, he had 2 targets the whole game and caught one of them. So now in this must-win situation, I would expect George Kittle is going to be featured heavily because they don't have a choice, and he's obviously their best player. And I think that's kind of interesting. You haven't seen this version. I mean, you've seen George Kittle a million times, but this is going to be the Niners pressing the issue with him, I think, if they're smart. And you also have Juwan Jennings, who just did a good job against the Rams earlier this season. And I meant to look this up, but Deebo generally does a great job against the Rams too. So that's the Niners' hope right there, is that they have some weapons. Now, they don't have a running back. Garendo may not be able to play. They may have to put Deebo Samuel at running back full time, and that hasn't worked in years. So it's iffy, but that's the hope.
So Deebo Samuel gets up to play against the Rams. I have it right here: 47 catches, 639 yards, 7 touchdowns in 9 games. Except when it's, of course, the playoffs, then he doesn't really do much. But I'm just saying, you do it, I do it.
It's not, but it is a playoff type game, so who knows? It's regular season, but
I mean, if you're Deebo Samuel, is this not your career right now? I mean, they could cut him, take on all that money, and just be like, you know what, it's worth it. I think I saw you mention he's not the explosive player he used to be. And I saw another dude mention Lombardi, I think it was, say that he had one play where he did something. He was like, see, this is why he's explosive. And I'm like, I got to be honest with you, I've watched him. I don't think his explosion is gone currently. Maybe it'll come back magically against the Rams. It seems like I couldn't see any Rams fan, analyst, whatever. I could not see them looking at this game and saying, yeah, they're going to just dominate the 49ers. 49ers are going to get up to play because at the end of the day, while it's very unlikely they're going to make the playoffs, the odds are 5% right now. And if they lose this, they're below 1%. It's not even that to me, Grant. I think these two teams hate each other so much. And let's just put it this way. Deebo, Deommodore Lenoir, whoever was talking smack after they lost. So you got to back that up, right? Deommodore Lenoir goes on Twitter and he calls his team trash, essentially. So if this trash team got lucky, well, you can't let them beat you in your own house in front of the entire world, right? So that's how I see it.
Hey, there's a lot of stake for Kyle Shanahan in this game. Forget Deebo. I mean, he's on the way out one way or another. Kyle is kind of coaching for his job over here. I mean, some people may laugh about it, and he just won big last week, which is helping. his cause, but he didn't win a Super Bowl like Sean McVay. He's in year 8, and the way he lost to Green Bay and Buffalo back-to-back weeks makes you wonder, like, have you lost this team? Like, do they need a new voice because they're not playing for you anymore? You got pushed. You didn't just get beat. You got pushed around, and your team didn't have any fight. So they fought against Chicago, but now's the test. And if they get blown out at home on Thursday Night Football by this team and this coach, I just don't know how the Niners owners will take it. So I think there's a lot at stake. I'm not saying the Niners will get blown out, but I do think there's a lot at stake for Kyle in this game.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. We got a super chat here all day, every day. Kim, appreciate you. Brock beats up terrible teams in good weather. Is that
bad
true
news
or
for
false?
Brock? It's gonna rain.
Oh boy, bad news for Brock. Everyone said
the ball
that
like slips out of his hand like at least once a game when it's wet.
Well, I'll say it right now. Okay, you remember that game last year? It was very similar to the Bills game that they just had against the Ravens. Do you remember that last year?
I do.
Everyone was saying when they went to Baltimore, it's gonna be ugly. 14-12, 17-12, 10-9, and it ended up being a barn burner in the pouring rain and the freezing cold in Baltimore. And I just
that was a home game. They played the Ravens at home. I was there.
Yeah. Wait, you were at the Baltimore game?
No, it was in Santa Clara. I was there for that one. I remember.
No, I meant the Rams game. Do you remember?
Oh, the Rams.
Yeah.
So sorry. I'm so confused.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
My bad.
You are fine. Do you remember that game, though? Like, just
I do remember that game.
Existing, right?
Yes.
And you remember everyone saying, oh, it's going to be a long day. Teams are just going to run the football. And it seemed that way. They came out with 9 straight runs for Kyren Williams against the number 1 run defense. And they had success. And guess what? It became a shootout. Lamar Jackson's throwing deep down the field. Stafford's throwing. My point here.
Purdy won't be throwing deep down the field in the rain. I'll tell you something. I'll tell you that.
My point here is that this game scares me a lot more back in the day with Jared Goff. This game in the rain doesn't scare me with Stafford. Did you know Stafford right now has 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, over 1,000 yards in his last 4 games? And did you know that the Rams are essentially 12-1 in the Stafford era under Sean McVay in December? I mean,
that doesn't. Is the one game against the Niners?
No. You know what the one game was? I just said it. It was against the Ravens.
Oh, because they lost that one in January to the Niners.
Yeah.
17.
That was wild. That was
wild.
That was a that
Debo
was
Samuel
one
threw
of
a
those,
touchdown pass in that game.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Tutu Atwell threw a pass in week 3. It was incomplete. I think he's going to throw a touchdown pass in this game.
Tutu Atwell was like the MVP of that game. Well, it was Stafford, but he was the number 2. Yeah.
Yeah. That was crazy. All right, man. I'm going to let you ask your questions because your questions are way more insightful than mine. We just have conversations with mine, but you bring it. Like you bring it. So I want to hear your questions.
Okay, here we go. So the Niners lost to a hobbled Rams team week 3. Now the Rams are really on a roll. They just beat the Bills. That's a big time win. How are the Rams different as a team, not just on offense but on defense too? Since that week 3.
Yeah, so I know it's weird. Like the defense just gave up 42, and I would tell you right now, I feel really good about the defense. You're not going to play Josh Allen every week, right? And this is a defense that has taken up, the opportunity where offense didn't get it done, defense has to get the final stop of the game, and they've done that quite a bit, right? The thing about the Rams right now, that's the thing. The thing about the Rams, their pass rush is really matured. It's actually the best in the league right now, or at least one of them. Last time I checked, they were number 1 pressure rate. So you have that. And they've also figured out what is working and what's not working. They've used more of what is called the cheetah package, which comes from Nick Saban. So what they do now is they use 3 edge defenders on the field. Not at all times, but quite a bit. You'll see Michael Hoyt, who's played very well this year in that role, and you'll see Byron Young and, of course, Jared Verse, who's taking the lead by storm. Then you have Braden Fisk, who just continues to get better and better and better. I think he's had 5 sacks in the last 5 games. And then you have Kobe Turner, who everyone who thought that he was just a product to play next to Aaron Donald, well, he's proven that to be not true. So you have a lot of these guys. You have Bobby Brown, who's been huge late in games on 3rd, 4th down in the trenches, that run stopper. You got, rotational pieces like Ty Davis. And then you have sub-package players that can still make an impact, like a Jalen McCullough. In the secondary, it's a little... Kobe Durant right now is dealing with a lung contusion, so we're not really sure where he's at. Is he going to play? Akella Witherspoon would be the starter in that case. But the issue right now is Darius Williams, the veteran, who surprisingly we didn't think we'd be talking about right now in this light. But he has gotten abused as of late. He got mossed by, you're going to laugh, I already know, Dante Pettis.
I saw that.
I know you did. I already knew you did. I could tell. When I
Dante
said
has
Dante
a moment
Pettis,
every 5 years. Once every 5 years, he has a moment, man. Don't sleep on him.
I loved Dante coming out of the draft. He was my number 1 receiver. I was wrong. Anyway,
he was pretty. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I like him, and by the way, his family's great. The Pettis family's great. So
definitely.
But anyway, he got mossed by Dante Pettis. He got destroyed by AJ Brown, but a lot of people do. And then in this game, it was like Khalil Shakir had his number, and Amari Cooper. So I'm a little concerned about Darius Williams in coverage for sure. Safeties, right? I like when Quentin Lake is playing deep safety. They use him in that star role, and Josh Allen picked on him. He gave up 7 catches on 10 targets. So that's really what we're looking at right now. Linebackers, they have figured out, because, back when they played the 49ers, they were rolling with Troy Reader and Christian Roseboom. But they're using this UDFA. He's very exciting, really good tackler. Omar Spates, who was rated last week, not this past week, but the week before against the Saints, he was rated the top player of the week by PFF, graded. So they might have found another gem there at linebacker. That's what we're seeing on the defense. But you asked me, though, what makes this team different than week 3? It's health. It's health. Their defense hasn't been as banged up. They didn't have Darius Williams in week 3. They didn't have Akella Witherspoon. They had Trey White. So when you look at the offense, though, they were banged up, Grant. They were really banged up. Injuries on the offensive line, Avila, Jonah Jackson, Noteboom were all hurt. They just got Alec Jackson back from suspension. I don't believe Havenstein played in that one. He might have. But the big thing is Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp were not healthy, right? But the thing that makes them different, just as far as now, as opposed to week 11, is that for the first time all year, Grant, they had back-to-back games with the same starting offensive line that they intended to start if everybody was healthy. And for the first time, we saw this offense look like what they were capable of, and why I thought this would be a Super Bowl team before the season. So that is really what we're looking at with the Rams, is a team that's now healthy, and they might not have Tyler Higbee, and he hasn't played all year, so it is what it is. And they might not have Kobe Durant, but for the most part, this team has a lot of health, late in the season, and Matthew Stafford in the second half of seasons is absolutely insane. So when you have all that together, the Rams, can they go on the run that they went on last year when they won 7 in the last 8? Absolutely.
Well, week 3, Cooper Kupp didn't play. The Niners have seen him a million times. Puka Nacua didn't play. Mm-hmm. And Nacua in particular is on fire right now. The Niners have never faced the Rams when Stafford and Cooper Kupp and Nacua were all on the field. I asked the Niners defensive coordinator yesterday what makes Puka Nacua unique or special. And, he didn't really have anything to say. He's like, yeah, he's tough. He's competitive.
What?
He's a really good scheme fit. Like, what makes Puka Nacua good? Because I feel like the Niners are still over here being like, and we don't buy it. We don't buy it. It's just this. It's all McVay. Like, what is it about him?
This is a great question. So Puka Nacua doesn't realize that like a lot of these veterans that have been in the league for a while, they go out of bounds. They don't fight for extra yards. They know how to take care of themselves. Puka Nacua doesn't know how to take care of himself. The guy has a car accident waiting to happen. And it's so funny because I was just saying this yesterday on the roundtable. People would be like, did you just see that catch he had? What catch? He has 2 of those a game. Like every week he's doing something crazy where he's contorting his body and making that toe tap play against the Bills, which, by the way, the throw by Stafford on that was insane. But then, like, he'll literally, and he knows he's going to take a punishment. He'll fall back in the air and catch it, and he's going to, get the wind knocked out of him. He doesn't care. He's going to fight for extra yards. So that's honestly a little concerning if you're a 49er fan that the offensive coordinator didn't, or it was the offensive coordinator, right?
Defensive coordinator
Defensive coordinator. Yeah. Puka Nacua, you just watch him for a little bit and you're like, this guy isn't supposed to be as good as he is, but he is. And it's funny because people said he was like Deebo Samuel. No. He was better than Deebo Samuel the day he stepped on a football field. He's a better route runner. He's a better natural hands receiver. Deebo Samuel's not making those toe tap catches. And now he's more explosive. So it's not even close. I think, Puka Nacua is closer to Justin Jefferson than he is Deebo Samuel. That's what I would say. And when you have a guy that has the rapport that he has with Stafford, Grant, I'll tell you right now, the year Cooper Kupp probably should have won the MVP, but it's a quarterback award, so he didn't. The Triple Crown year. The rapport he had with Stafford, I mean, you remember it. It was just insane. He was always in the place where Stafford expected him to be. Well, guess what? With Nacua has that same rapport. It's the best connection I've seen since the Triple Crown Cooper Kupp with Matthew Stafford. So that's who Puka Nacua is.
Love that answer. Okay, now I want to ask you about Stafford. So Stafford won a Super Bowl. Stafford's a great player. He's 7-6 this year. He was 9-6 last year. His quarterback rating is 96. It was 92 last year. To get Stafford, the Rams traded Goff and 2 first-round picks and really set up the Lions to be what they are right now. They haven't won anything, but they're kind of dominant. They got Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta for that deal, and his quarterback rating is 109, and he's 12-1, and he was 12-5 last year. So we know Jared Goff. We know his limitations. He's a really good quarterback, especially when he's got a good offensive line and weapons and a good system. Why was that trade worth it? What makes Matthew Stafford special in a way that Jared Goff maybe isn't?
That's a great question. Matthew Stafford, if you have anything that goes wrong, your offensive line, like Jared Goff is going to crumble. He just is, right?
We've seen it.
And I know Lions fans will say that's BS because, we just saw, Taylor Decker went down and they had Dan Skipper at left tackle. No. I'm talking about what Stafford's been through this year. Say what you will, because people are like, you're making excuses. The Rams, the injuries, the Lions have had injuries, other teams have. Yes, but the Rams all year, Grant, they just were able to establish what their offense was supposed to be. At no point this year did they have a baseline of what their offense was supposed to be. Did you know week 1 against this Lions team that everybody loses their mind over, the Rams had them on the ropes and they had a 4th string left tackle that was protecting Stafford, and they had all sorts of mixes and matches in the interior. And Kevin Dotson, who's the only guy on the offensive line that left that game and played every single down, guess what? He left Ford Field in a walking boot, and he's been hurt almost the whole year. So the Rams at no point really ever established what their offense was going to look like until that Saints game. And the first half, it wasn't pretty. They didn't score. First time in Sean McVay's career that he got shut out in a half in the regular season. The other time, postseason, the Super Bowl against the Patriots. But the second half, they scored 21 points. They were 3 for 3 in the red zone. And then they followed that up with what they did against the Bills. So right now, what makes Stafford different than Jared Goff? It's very simple. Stafford you don't have to coddle him. You don't have to give him everything. Okay? Do you think Jared Goff would be putting up the numbers he's putting up if he had Josh Allen's supporting cast? No. He wouldn't. I love James Cook, but everything that Ben Johnson, by the way, Ben Johnson as the play caller, probably best in the league as well. But everything that Ben Johnson does, and having a David Montgomery and having a Jahmyr Gibbs and, having a guy that could take the top off the defense in Jameson Williams. And now, people forgot Tim Patrick's a really good receiver. He's just suffered 2 really unfortunate injuries back-to-back seasons, and now he's getting healthy. And then you have Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's one of the best route runners in football and, will stick his face in the fan, do whatever you ask him to do. So you have that. You have a top 5 offensive line, and now the defense is starting to play well. Well, yeah, Jared Goff's going to look really good. But Stafford has been asked to carry the load here without Puka Nacua. He missed like 6-7 games, right? And, you've had to carry the load without Cooper Kupp, who missed 4 or 5 games. And you've had to carry the load without your offensive line, which hasn't been fully healthy. And it didn't get fully healthy until week 13. So the difference between Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff is that the Rams knew, I don't think necessarily it was a win now thing like people make it out to be. Matthew Stafford, I believe, was 33, 32 years old, whatever, when they traded for him. The reality is they knew that they were never going to win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. They knew that. They gave him everything. They had him on a rookie deal, and he didn't get it done against New England. And guess what? New England wasn't the best team. The best team in the AFC was the Kansas City Chiefs. And if D Ford doesn't line up, you don't think he would have got
it done? Cooper Kupp wasn't healthy for that Super Bowl. You don't think you would have got it done with Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham Jr., Von Miller? You don't think he would have? Well, we haven't seen him do it with the Lions yet. He kind of crumbled in the second half against the Niners last year.
Oh, that Bengals, that he absolutely doesn't win that Bengals Super Bowl because Odell Beckham Jr. goes down. And that offense, struggled. Like, Stafford's throwing to Ben Skoranek, who dropped the touchdown that would have beat the 49ers in that week 17 or, 17th game. But that's what we're talking about is Stafford gives you a chance in every game. I said this to multiple Rams fans who were complaining about him. I'm like, okay, so right now they're 3-6 or whatever, right? Or 3-5. It was like they wouldn't even have 3 wins without Stafford. What he does, he's able to alleviate when Sean McVay has a bad play calling day, right? And he can make any throw, virtually any throw on the field. And he makes throws that you can't even recreate in a video game. I'm serious. That throw he made,
he makes
Puka
throws
Nacua,
that only Allen and Mahomes and Herbert can make. Yeah,
exactly. It's insane. So then you have Purdy. A guy. You have a guy that essentially he's like top 5 in fourth quarter comebacks all time. He's clutch. He's just, he's incredible. And for the first time this year, he finally has his offensive line intact. He has his weapons, and now we're seeing it. The stats against the Bills, he could have had 5 touchdowns in that game if they needed him to. They had 2 rushing touchdowns with Kyron, and they had a rushing touchdown with Puka Nacua. So Jared Goff is a good quarterback. I'm not going to say he's not, but Stafford's an elite quarterback, and I don't think people understand this, and this is why he's somehow still underrated. We're still questioning whether or not he's a Hall of Famer. Absolutely. My question is, if he didn't play most of his career with the Lions and say he got lucky and he was the heir to Tom Brady's throne or whatever, where is he right now? If he's in Green Bay, where is he right now? I think he's better. Aaron Rodgers, I think, is the better regular season guy, but I always thought the narratives against Stafford in the postseason were absolutely unfair. His first ever postseason game, he had 4 touchdowns, and the defense gave up over 40 points to the Saints. And then people say, well, he lost. It doesn't matter. Your defense was terrible. So I think now we've seen it. And, people say, well, they lost to the Lions. They lost 24-23, okay? Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you right now, Cooper Kupp was 40% healthy. You know what I mean? So right now, the Rams would beat anybody. I think they can win the Super Bowl right now if Stafford and the offense plays the way they did this past Sunday. And Grant, I'm not saying they're always going to look like that, but it gives you an idea that this Rams team might be back. We need to see it this Thursday night, because obviously if they lay an egg against the 49ers, it's not going to look good, and it would kill their momentum. But I think people are looking at this the wrong way. I don't necessarily think they're due for a letdown because, I mean, the Bills, people kept saying that they won 7 straight before this loss. I just think this Rams team, for the first time all year, we know what they were supposed to be, and now we're starting to see it.
Okay, I got a question about Sean McVay.
Yeah.
I understand you're very bullish about this team. They haven't beaten the Niners yet, all right? They're just hovering around 500. It wasn't long ago they lost to the freaking Dolphins. So what I want to ask you is, Sean McVay, he's only had one losing season. Mm-hmm. Very consistent. He won a Super Bowl. I cover the 49ers. I criticize Kyle Shanahan a lot. A lot of people criticize Kyle Shanahan. He's an easy target. He hasn't won a Super Bowl, and he's lost them in some incredible ways. Plus that NFC Championship game to the Rams. No one criticizes Sean McVay ever, anywhere in the world. And I noticed that a few weeks ago, and it annoyed me because I feel like everyone deserves someone to, some criticism.
No one
That's why I took it upon myself.
And
I've been looking into Sean McVay, and I just want to point out that since he won that Super Bowl, which was great, he's got a losing record. And he didn't win he didn't win a playoff game last year. He may make the playoffs this year. He's kind of has a mediocre team. He's got some really good players, but he set up the Lions, who haven't won anything yet. Tell me, John Gruden won 1 Super Bowl. Doug Peterson won 1 Super Bowl. Like, is this a guy who inherited Aaron Donald and put together a Super Bowl team and now has complete control to build whatever he wants, and now he's going to be like 10-7, 9-8 for a long time? Like, is he overrated, or is he a legit future Hall of Famer?
I think if you gave everyone, even the Kansas City Chiefs, I think if everyone had a chance to restart at head coach and there was just a free-for-all, right? Everyone's like, do you want Sean McVay? Everyone in the league would take Sean McVay. The Steelers, the Chiefs, the Lions, they might say they wouldn't, but they would. And I actually think because, this rhetoric is out there that, he has struggled since the Super Bowl, which I understand. It's totally fair.
Coming from me.
Yeah, but I've heard it from others.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I've been very critical of McVay, but I've been critical of McVay in a different way. I've been critical of his play calling. I think he gives up on the run. I think the thing about him is
the offense is ranked like 15th or 16th right now.
Yeah, but that goes back to, I think, the health. And
there's been injury.
That's why I think it's really an overblown thing. They were 10-7 last year in a year that they weren't supposed to be that good. They got rid of Jalen Ramsey. They got rid of Bobby Wagner. They got rid of Leonard Floyd. They weren't supposed to be as good as they were. Now, I believed they would go 10-7, right? I actually picked them to go 10-7, and I believed in the team. And why? Because I believe in the coaching staff. I believe in, Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp, and I'm not going to say Puka Nacua. I had no idea Puka Nacua would do what he did. But I believed in what they had. I believed in the pieces, and I loved their draft. And somehow they took last year's draft, which was fantastic, and one-upped it this year and got Jared Verse and Braden Fisk and Cameron Kinchin. The draft this year is incredible too. But the thing about McVay is, and I actually have been saying this quite a bit, I have never appreciated culture more. When I look at the 49ers, they don't have that. They don't. And when I look at Sean McVay, I'm like, this dude went through the absolute hell of a season in 2022. Because you go from hanging up your banner right before the game, week 1, to getting blasted by the Bills. And you know who was a big component of that win? Von Miller. Yeah. I will say this might seem a little interesting because people haven't heard this take. When I look back at 2022, I think Von Miller killed that entire team. And I don't think he's that good, right? But I didn't want Von Miller back. And people are like, why didn't you want Von? He's older. Right? And this guy, he had 8 sacks, whatever. He was great in the Super Bowl. He was great down the stretch. I appreciate what he did. But I wasn't going to give this guy $20 million when he's had injury issues. And sure enough, he hasn't been great in Buffalo. Let's be honest here. When he's healthy, he's awesome. But he hasn't had, that hasn't been worth the contract. The reason I say this, Grant, is because when the Rams they pay Von Miller, right? Or they try to pay Von Miller and he goes to the Bills. He went to the Bills after every single edge defender was off the board, Grant. So I think that led into this uncertain offseason. They did things they're not comfortable with. They spent all that money on Allen Robinson. They trade away Robert Woods.
I forgot Allen Robinson. Go.
There you go. So I think McVay had a less talented roster, but I also think then they get doused with injury flames. They have 17 different offensive line combinations throughout the season, and Stafford doesn't even get through half the year. And a lot of that's why he's a losing record, because they went, 5-12 or whatever. Yeah, that's why. And I just think that McVay, because of this, has almost become underrated, because I think the play calling, which I have criticized him with, sure, look at what he did against the Bills. That is Sean McVay when things are together. But when Sean McVay doesn't have everything together, he keeps them at 6-6. And I got to give him a lot of credit for that, because it has not been an easy year.
Yeah, that's very Mike Tomlin-esque, I have to say. So, good answer. Real quick, I got to go. I got another show in about 1 minute. But before I do, why are you picking the Rams to win this game?
How'd you know I was picking the Rams to win this game?
So am I.
I'm picking them because right now they are at a runaway freight train. They would beat anybody tomorrow if they had to play them. Just where they are right now, I really believe that. I think they beat the Chiefs. I think they beat the Bills again, whatever. That's why I'm picking them. I think it's going to be a close game. I have 31-24.
You're going to have to face the Lions again in the playoffs if you get there.
I want to face the Lions again.
You know it's going to come down to that.
I don't think the Lions want to see that. Real quick here, all day, every day. Kim, advice, Jake, please don't listen to Mr. Spreadsheets, Lombardi. Hey, I'm not going to go there. That dude is doing something a little strange for some change. I appreciate the super chat. I had to read it. I mean, the guy sent in $5, but I'm not throwing shade at Lombardi. I mean, I disagree with a lot of what he says, but I'm never gonna. I don't know him. You do maybe, but I don't. So
I'll throw the shade.
Okay,
for the both of us.
So that's gonna do it. We appreciate you guys. Be sure, as always, to check out BetUS. YouTube 150 is the code, and we will see you guys. Well, the next time the Rams play the 49ers, maybe in the playoffs.